So, welcome all of you. Thank you very much for joining this Srimad Bhagavatam session. And today we'll be taking up from Canto 1, chapter 18, the first half, that is 1 to 25th, up to 25th verse. There are 50 verses in this chapter. So, before starting, let us take the blessings by reciting Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivara Dari Jaya Girivara Dari Jaya Yashodananda Jaya Rajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodananda Jaya Rajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodananda Jaya Rajana Ranjana Jaya Yamuna Kiravanachari Jaya Kunja Hari Jaya Yamuna Kiravanachari Jaya Kunja Hari Jaya Yamuna Kiravanachari Jaya Kunja Hari Jaya Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय जगन्नाथ बलदेश्वर माई की जय नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय पंचतत्व की जय षडगोस्वामी की जय गुरु परंपरा की जय गुरुदेव की जय टागोर ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God Narayana, unto Narayana, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Ashtaprayesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. In loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So, Hare Krishna Prabhu Mataji. So, today I will be discussing from Canto 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam, 18th chapter. The title of the chapter is Maharaja Parikshit, cursed by a Brahmana boy. So 25 verses we will be taking today, first half. The second half will be taken next Saturday by some another group. So before we start, let us recite one of the verses. And a very beautiful verse. There is a 14th verse. Yeah. So please excuse me. Since morning I'm slight cold. So anyway, it has mercy. I will take the class. Hare Krishna. So it is 118, 14th verse. Ko nama tripyed rasavet kathayam mahatamaikanta parayanasya nantam gunanam agunasya jagmor yogeshwaraye bhavapadma mukhyaha. Ko nama tripyed rasavet kathayam mahatamaikanta parayanasya nantam gunanam agunasya jagmor yogeshwaraye bhavapadma mukhyaha. Ko nama tripyed rasavet kathayam mahatamaikanta parayanasya nantam gunanam agunasya jagmo yogeshwaraye bhavapadmukyaha. Anybody who wants to recite? You can go ahead.
May I, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mother, please.
Ko naam tripyed rasavit kathayam mahatmai kanta paranasya nantam gunanan gunasya jamur yogeshwaraye bhavapadma mukhyaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. We'll go to word to word meaning. Who is he? Nama, specifically. Tripyed, get full satisfaction. Rasavit, expert in relishing mellow nectar. Kathayam, in the topics of Mahattama, the greatest among the living beings. Ekanta, exclusively. Nayanasya, of one who is the shelter of. Na, never. Antam, end. Gunana, of attributes. Agunasya, of the transcendence. Jagmuhu, could to ascertain. Yogeshwaraha, the lords of mystic power. Ye, all they. Bhava, Lord Shiva. Padma, Lord Brahma. Mukhyaha, heads. Translation, purport by Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, Govinda, is the exclusive shelter for all great living beings. And his transcendental attributes cannot even be measured by such masters of mystic powers as Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Can anyone who is expert in relishing nectar, rasa, ever be fully satiated by hearing topics about him? Purport. And Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are two chief of the demigods. They are full of mystic powers. For example, Lord Shiva drank an ocean of poison, of which one drop was sufficient to kill an ordinary living being. Similarly, Brahma could create many powerful demigods, including Lord Shiva. So they are Ishwaras, or lords of the universe. But they're not the supreme powerful. The supreme powerful is Govinda, Lord Krishna. He is a transcendence, and his transcendental attributes cannot be measured even by such powerful Ishwaras as Shiva and Brahma. Therefore, Lord Krishna is the exclusive shelter of the greatest of all living beings. Brahma is counted amongst the living beings, but he is the greatest of all of us. And why is the greatest of all the living beings so much attached to the transcendental topics of Lord Krishna? Because he is a reservoir of all enjoyment. Everyone wants to relish some kind of taste in everything. But one who is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord can derive unlimited pleasure from such engagement. The Lord is unlimited, and his name, attributes, pastimes, entourage, variegatedness, etc. are unlimited. And those who relish them can do so unlimitedly and still not feel satiated. This fact is confirmed in the Padma Purana. Ramante yogino anante satyananda chidatmani iti rama pade nasau param brahma vidhiyate. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the absolute truth. And therefore, the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Rama. There is no end to such transcendental discourses. In mundane affairs, there is a law of satiation. But in transcendence, there is no such satiation. Suta Goswami decided to continue the topics of Lord Krishna before the sages of Naimisharanya. And the sages also expressed their readiness to hear from him continuously. Since the Lord is transcendence and his attributes are transcendental, such discourses increase the receptive mood of the purified audience. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Sapidamena Bhutale Swam Rupakadamahyam Vidati Subhadikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Rupakamalam Shri Guru Vishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sagana Raghunathamitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sanganita Shri Vishaka Tamscha He Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Mostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhavanda Nishwari Shaban Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpataru Vischa Pasandu Bhayevacha Patinanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namaha. Sorry, excuse me. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasa Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yonta Pravishya Mama Shimam Prasuptam Sanjeevaya Lashakti Darasudamna Anyam Chahasta Charana Shranatu Gadhin Prana Namo Bhagavate Prashantabhyam Namo Vishnu Bhutale Srimati Mahavishko Samjnavani Namo Vishnu. Hare Krishna Prabhu's mother. Welcome all of you. Thank you for keeping on the appointment with Krishna today. And today is a very auspicious day. Gita Jayanti, right? Where Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, to all, for the benefit of all the people. So the first verse, Suta Uvacha. So this chapter is entitled Maharaja Parikshit cursed by a Brahmana boy. Very important chapter. The first verse is, Suta Goswami said, due to the mercy of the personality of God, Shri Krishna, who acts wonderfully, Maharaj Parikshit, though struck by the weapon of the son of Drona in his mother's womb, could not be burnt because Krishna helped him. Say Prabhu's Mataji is, this blissful event, as it is given them a chance for reunion with their dear Lord Krishna. Where? In the spiritual abode. So the devotees, pure devotees, they welcome death with smile. So when Parikshit Maharaj came to know about the way his life would end, he immediately gave up his family, kingdom, and took shelter of sages. And what did he do? He immersed himself in the nectarian ocean of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Suta Goswami, while explaining the glories of Maharaj Parikshit to the sages of in the Naimisharanya. So in the second verse, he says, furthermore, Maharaj Parikshit was always consciously surrendered to the personality of Godhead. Therefore, he was neither afraid nor overwhelmed by fear due to a snake bird, which was to bite him because of the fury of a Brahmana boy. If we were in his position, we would have been unnecessarily wasting time and energy in finding out ways to escape from the snake bird. And out of anxiety, would have died much before the stipulated time. And there is a saying, the coward dies many times in his life, whereas brave faces death only once. That's why Prabhupada has given us the essence of knowledge. He says, a self-surrendered devotee of the Lord is called Narayana Parayana. Now, such a person is never afraid of any place or person, not even death. For him, nothing is as important as the Supreme Lord. So he gives equal importance to heaven and hell. Because a pure devotee knows well that both heaven and hell are a creation of the Lord. And similarly, life and death are different conditions of existence created by the Lord. But in all conditions and in all circumstances, remembrance of Narayana is essential. So the Narayana Parayana practices this constantly. So whether we face good times or bad, let us give up unnecessary fears and be focused on the ultimate goal. What is that? That is to always engage our mind in remembering the Lord under all circumstances. See, a small pastime, the story you can see. Once upon a time, a cow went out to graze in the jungle. Now, suddenly, she noticed a tiger racing towards her. So she turned and started running, fearing that any moment the tiger would sink his claws into her. So the cow was desperately looking for some place to escape. And at last, he saw a shadow pond. Not a shadow, sorry, it is a shallow pond. So barely evading the tiger's reach. It was running faster, right? So she jumped into the pond. And in the heat of the chase, the tiger that also blindly leaped after her into the pond. Unfortunately, now both of them got stuck in a quicksand. Now both had their heads above water, but unable to free themselves, no matter how much they tried. They're trying this way and that way, but both of them could not. So the tiger, it was repeatedly roaring at the cow. He said, I am going to enjoy the sound of crunching your bones between my teeth. So he was thrashing about in fury. But soon he became fretful because as he found there is no prospect of escape. Now the cow, very thoughtfully, it laughed as the tiger was struggling to free himself. And the cow asked the tiger, do you have a master? Now the tiger, he replied, I am the king of the jungle. Why do you ask me if I have a master? I myself am the master. The cow said, you may be the king of the jungle, but here all your power has failed to save your life. And what about you? Now tiger was more angry. What about you? You are going to die here in this mud too. And the cow smiled, and said, no, I am not. The tiger became more angry. If even I, the king of the jungle, cannot free myself from this mud, how can you, an ordinary cow? Now the cow very gently replied, I cannot free myself from this mud, but my master can. When the sun sets, my master finds me absent at home, he will come looking for me. Once he finds me, he will raise me up and escort me back home. Now the tiger fell silent and he just was glaring at the cow. Now soon the sun set and the cow's master arrived. He immediately recognized the plight the cow was in and lifted her to safety. So as they walked home, the cow and the master both felt very renewed gratitude for one another and they pitied the tiger. See, they both would have been happy to save if only the tiger had allowed them. See, let us see what is the lesson out of this, right? See, the cow represents a surrendered soul. The tiger represents a proud person. And the master represents Lord Shri Krishna, who is known as Gopal and Govinda, the loving protector of the cows and the world. And the mud, the quicksand where the mud represents the material world. And the chase represents the struggle for existence. So, see, the surrendered soul relies upon the Lord rather than themselves for all the necessities of life. See, no matter how many troubles appear to be created by the proud persons of this world who reject the Lord out of false ego, of considering themselves capable of taking care of themselves. The surrendered souls know that everything is really in the hands of the Lord, who is the all-loving Lord Shri Krishna. So they're fully confident in his protection. Though they know sometimes they just need to wait a little while until sundown. So we all live in an age of uncertainty. Everywhere in every step of life. Sorry. Every one of us can certainly experience this uncertainty. Be it jobs, marital relationships, bringing children. See, for those who don't surrender to Guru or Krishna, every single problem in this middle is like quicksand. But for devotees who are Narayana Parayana, heaven or hell, all are the same. Excuse me. In Bhagavatam, so this is the second verse. So Sutta Goswami is describing the glories of Parikshit Maharaj to sages of Naimisharanya. So following the footsteps of Parikshit Maharaj, Prabhupada and Guru, let us all consciously surrender unto their lotus feet, right? So that we always remain blissfully engaged in their service. See, in this second verse, the word Arpitashaya. See, the last two, the surroundings, no, Arpita, surrendered, Ashaya, consciousness. So, Rupa translated this word Arpitashaya very wonderfully as surrendering with consciousness. Surrendering is fine, but surrendering with consciousness. So, such wholehearted surrender to Supreme Lord Krishna made Parikshit Maharaj fearless. See, in this world, the miseries we may not remember. Miseries are the pains we face at the time of death, birth. But now every one of us have to face miseries in the form of old age, disease, and ultimately death. Similarly, you're all prone to miseries arising out of body and mind, adhyatmic, adibhautik, other people, and adidevic, supernatural powers, miseries. When you don't surrender to the Supreme Lord, you're always haunted by the feeling of insecurity, right? So fear, anxiety, and worry, it kills us and tortures us, even before the actual moment of misery. The lives of Mahatmas like Prabhupada and all the Acharyas show how they were always fearless in dealing with challenging situations in life, be it health, be it old age, or even other living entities. So in all situations, their concern was only how to serve the Supreme Lord, and none of these situations could overpower or exploit them. So my Guru Maharaj always used to say, when we approach the Supreme Lord with innocent faith like that of a child, the Lord assures all protection. That's why Prabhupada in the purport of Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 4.186, he says, it is natural for those who have developed intense love for Krishna not to care for personal inconvenience and impediments. Such devotees are simply determined to execute the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his representative, the spiritual master. In all circumstances, even amidst the greatest dangers, they undeviatingly carry on with the greatest determination. So the intense lover of Krishna is never deviated from his service, despite all difficulties and impediments brought before him. So this reminds us of Prabhupada's purport to Bhagavatam 1.9.10, first canto, 9th chapter, 10th verse, where he talks about Bhishma Deva, right? See, Bhishma Deva was certainly unable, when he was in the bed of arrows, he was unable at that time to welcome and receive the sages physically, because he was neither at his home nor in a normal healthy condition. But he was quite fit by the activities of his sound mind, and therefore he could utter sweet words with hearty expressions. And all of them were well received. See, Rupa says one can perform one's duty by physical work, by mind, and by words. One can perform one's duty by physical work, by mind, and by words. And Bhishma Deva knew well how to utilize them in the proper place, and therefore there was no difficulty for him to receive them, although physically unfit. So in the fourth verse, that's why says no. This was so because those who have dedicated their lives to the transcendental topics of the personality of Godhead, of whom the Vedic hymns sing, and who are constantly engaged in remembering the lotus feet of the Lord, do not run the risk of having misconceptions even at the last moment of their lives. The Srimad Bhagavatam is full of questions and answers. The questions are really worth meditating on, because every one of those questions are meant for the upliftment of our practical life and the attainment of self-realization. See, in the second chapter of this first canto, Shaunaka Rishi posts 6 primary questions to Suta Goswami, the answer for which is the entire Bhagavatam. And again, in the fourth chapter, Shaunaka Rishi puts forward 8 more questions. And this time to understand why did a great saintly king like Parikshit Maharaj decide to give up his life on the pretext of the Brahmana boy's curse. So one of those questions is worth meditating on. And more important is the answer given by Srila Suta Goswami in the later chapter. So Shaunaka Rishi asks the question in 1.4.12, those who are devoted to the personality of Godhead live only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. They do not live for any selfish interest. So, even though Emperor Parikshit was free from all attachment to worldly possessions, how could he give up his mortal body, which was shelter for others? So, this was a very thoughtful question because it is well known that Parikshit Maharaj was a great devotee and an ideal king. So, either way, his activities are bound to be completely dedicated to the welfare of the public. See, the kings usually they risk their life, also the battlefield for what? To save their citizens from attacks by the enemies. So as long as Parikshit Maharaj was there, all the welfare projects were functioning perfectly and the citizens were completely happy. So it's a natural expectation that if Parikshit Maharaj stayed as long as he can, then the citizens could have lived peacefully that much longer. So considering this, being a powerful king, he could have easily averted the Brahmana boy's curse and ruled the world for many more years. So why did he not do that? Was he not concerned about the welfare of his citizens? What a very good question, right? So Suta Goswami beautifully replies to this question in the 5th and 8th verses. In the 5th verse, he says, as long as the great, powerful son of Abhimanyu remains emperor of the world, there is no chance that the personality of Kali will flourish. So this was the 5th one, right? As long as the great, powerful son of Abhimanyu remains emperor of the world, there is no chance that the personality of Kali will flourish. And the 8th verse, he says, Maharaj Parikshit was a realist, like the bees who only accept the essence of a flower. He knew perfectly well that in this age of Kali, see, very nice point. In this age of Kali, auspicious things produce good effects immediately, whereas inauspicious acts must be actually performed to render effects. So he was never envious of the personality of Kali. See, it means since Parikshit Maharaj was a pure devotee of the Lord and a powerful king, Kali could not enter in as long as he was around. And he also knew very well that whether he likes it or not, the age of Kali has to set in as ordained by Krishna, because it is Krishna's plan for the Kali to come. So as a pure devotee, Parikshit Maharaj did not want to meddle with the plan of Krishna. But at the same time, he wanted to make an organized effort to save the citizens from the effects of Kali. As very beautifully mentioned by Srila Prabhupada in the purport, it is said that even though all nefarious activities of the personality of Kali are present, there is a great advantage in the age of Kali. What is that advantage? One can attain salvation simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Thereby, Maharaj Parikshit made an organized effort to propagate the chanting of Lord's holy name. And thus he saved the citizens from the clutches of Kali. So Parikshit Maharaj, he took the advantages of Kali Yuga, as a good sign and lay his life for the welfare of the citizens. In fact, as an added bonus, Parikshit Maharaj showed us how to attain perfect death by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from the lips of Shukadeva Goswami. So for thousands of years, as a result of Parikshit Maharaj's magnanimity, we are all relishing this great transcendental scripture, Bhagavatam, which is absolutely essential for tasting devotional service and go back to God at the end of our life. See, while narrating about Ashwamedha Yajnas performed by Maharaj Yudhishthira, Suta Goswami says in the 6th verse of this chapter, this is the 6th verse, he says, the very day and moment the personality of God, Lord Shri Krishna, left this earth, the personality of Kali, who promotes all kinds of irreligious activities, came into this world. The moment Krishna left, personality of Kali entered. See, Lord Krishna, he caused 3 well-performed Ashwamedha yajnas, horse sacrifices, to be conducted by Maharaj Yudhishthira. And so, this caused a very, very fame to be glorified in all directions, right? To Maharaj, like that of Indra, who had performed 100 such sacrifices. So, in this, Indra is being addressed as Shatamanyu. See, Manu has performed 100 Ashwamedha sacrifices. Now, Yudhishthira Maharaj has done only 3. But Suta Goswami mentions that just by doing 3 sacrifices, he became as famous as Indra. So it is very important now for us to note that whether we do 3 or 100, that doesn't determine the greatness of a person. The perfection of doing any sacrifice or any service depends on how much the Lord is pleased by the service. In the case of Prithu Maharaj, also, when he was about to do the 100th sacrifice, Indra, out of envy, tried every possible manner to steal the horse and thereby stop the sacrifice. Initially, not understanding the mood of Indra or the will of the Lord, Prithu Maharaj was trying to stop Indra from stealing the horses. But when Lord Brahmaji advised him to stop with 99 sacrifices and not agitate Indra by doing the 100th sacrifice, Prithu Maharaj immediately obeyed Brahmaji. So Lord was, thereby the Lord was pleased and he gave him his darshan, Prithu Maharaj, in the sacrificial arena. So Srila Prabhupada explains why Yudhishthira Maharaj's fame spread far and wide. See, the king of heaven is thousands and thousands of times greater than Maharaj Yudhishthira in opulence. Yet the fame of Maharaj Yudhishthira was not less. The reason is that Maharaj Yudhishthira was a pure devotee of the Lord. And by his grace only was King Yudhishthira on the level of the king of heaven. Even though he performed only 3 yajnas, whereas the king of heaven performed hundreds. So that is the prerogative of the devotee of the Lord. See, the Lord is equal to everyone, but a devotee of the Lord is more glorified because he is always in touch with the all great. See, the sun rays are equally distributed. Correct. Sun rays are equally distributed. But still there are some places which are always dark. So this is not due to the sun, but to the receptive power. Similarly, those who are not 100% devotees of the Lord get the full-fledged mercy of the Lord, which is always equally distributed everywhere. They also receive. So in the age of Kali, termed as the fallen age, has some profits for fallen souls. Sorry. See, as the saying goes, every coin has 2 sides. Same holds true with Kali age. So instead of highlighting only the darker side of Kali, we should be thankful to the Lord that it's been allotted a brighter side also. Rupa says in the 7th verse, Maharaj Parishit was a realist like the bees who only accept the essence of a flower. He knew perfectly well that in this age of Kali, auspicious things produce good effects immediately, whereas inauspicious acts must be actually performed to render effects. He was never envious of the personality of Kali. See, it is a very important statement for us to understand. The greatest of all advantages is that one can attain salvation simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. We are so fallen that we commit blunders, knowingly and unknowingly. But the Lord is so merciful that He gave us the advantages that using our limited intelligence, we don't fall prey to the age of Kali. See, by being away from the designated places of Kali, which are the places of Kali? Places of gambling, prostitution, intoxication, and animal slaughter. These are the places designated for Kali. By being away from these, we can easily cross the difficult ocean of Kali. By following the 4 regulative principles thoroughly, there is no reason why we will get succumbed to the onslaughts of Kali. So when there is constant chanting of the Lord, there is no place for Kali to enter. So Prabhupada says Maharaj Parikshit was not unnecessarily envious of the personality of Kali because he did not intend to give him any chance to perform any sinful act. He protected his citizens from falling prey to the sinful acts of the age of Kali. At the same time, he gave full facility to the age of Kali by allotting him some particular places, which I just mentioned. So Maharaj Parikshit took all advantages and did not think any ill of the age of Kali, true to his Vaishnava cult. And he also eliminated the subject saying, those who are not devotees of the Lord are careless and unintelligent. Unless one is thoroughly intelligent, one cannot be a devotee of the Lord. So those who are not devotees of the Lord, they fall prey to the actions of Kali. So, four things. So by austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, following the regulatory principles, and above all, chanting the holy name of the Lord, we can free ourselves from the ill effects of Kali. Just have Krishna in our heart, and Kali will vanish. Sivan's Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami that all scriptures stress association with pure devotees of the God. So the opportunity to associate with the pure devotee of the Supreme Lord is the beginning of one's complete perfection. And this is also confirmed in Bhagavatam, the 13th verse. This chapter which we are reciting, right? 13th verse. He says, the value of a moment's association with the devotee of the Lord cannot even be compared to the attainment of heavenly planets or liberation from matter. And what to speak of worldly benedictions in the form of material prosperity, which are for those who are meant for death. See, when a person is in distress, they try to sort out themselves, right? Or through people whom they feel close to. And when none of this work, they are forced to seek the shelter of Krishna. In Mahabharata, after the Pandavas lost everything in the gambling match, Draupadi was forcibly dragged to the court by Dushasana. And at the command of Duryodhana Karna, he started disrobing her. So at this point, Draupadi caught hold of her part of the sari desperately and pleaded for help and protection from King Dhritarashtra. Now, receiving no response, she pleaded to Bhishma Deva, Drona, and then to her husbands, who were all looking at her helplessly. Sorry. See, it is only at this point that she realized that there is no one who can come to her help in this precarious situation. Now, at this moment, Lord Krishna was, what was Krishna doing? He was eating in Dwaraka, fully observing the whole incident through his transcendental vision. Now, Mother Rukmini asked Krishna, why are you not helping your devotee when she is in such a precarious condition? Krishna replied, Draupadi is presently seeking help from others, and so I can't intervene. And he continued eating. Then Draupadi tried to save herself by catching hold of her sari by hand and then by her teeth. Then she held her sari with one hand and raised her other hand, calling out for Krishna. Now at this point, Rukmini again looked at Krishna. Krishna said, I would wait till she surrenders completely. Now feeling totally dejected at all her efforts, Draupadi finally let go of her sari and in the complete mood of surrender prayed to Krishna as the only means of shelter. Prayed to Krishna as the only means of shelter. And when Krishna immediately reciprocated, instantly, with his pure devotee by supplying unlimited saris. So that's why in Bhagavad Gita 9.22, Krishna says, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityaviyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. What does he say? He says, for those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. What more you want, right? And in 14th verse, he says, the personality of God and Lord Krishna, Govinda, is the exclusive shelter for all great living beings. And his transcendental attributes cannot even be measured by such masters of mystic powers as Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Can anyone who is expert in relishing nectar, rasa, ever be fully satiated by hearing the topics about him? This is what we recited right in the morning. So Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, Krishna is the transcendence. And his transcendental attributes cannot be measured even by such powerful Ishwaras as Shiva and Brahma. That's what we saw in the purport when we read, right? Krishna is the exclusive shelter of the greatest of all living beings. Now, Brahma is counted as among the living beings, but he's the greatest of all. And why is he greatest of all living beings so much attached to the transcendental topics of Krishna Katha? Because he is the reservoir of all enjoyment. So, everyone wants to relish some kind of taste, in everything. But one who is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he can derive unlimited pleasure from such engagement. Lord is unlimited. And his name, attributes, pastimes, they are unlimited. And those who relish them can do so unlimitedly and still not feel satiated. See, some time ago, in one of the classes, my Guru Maharaj, he took this verse and told us to meditate on the one word, ekanta, in this verse, in the 14th word, ekanta. Ekanta means exclusive. Now, exclusive means he is the one and only one. Krishna is the one and only one. See, we simply waste our time running after what we probably think could be a safe shelter and lose our focus. So to keep our focus fully on Krishna, we must engage ourselves only in Srila Prabhupada's books. Because we cannot find anything except Krishna consciousness in Prabhupada's books. Everything else is nothing but some form of concoction. It's only by attentively hearing the pastimes of the Lord from a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, in the association of devotees, that we can realize this exclusivity. See, in this current material world, right, we have a lot of fans, celebrity fans, sports fans, fan clubs, right? See, devotees of the Lord, they also relish the wonderful activities of the Lord in his various manifestations like Narasimha, Lord Ram and all, Janmashtami. So devotees try to broadcast the glories of the Lord, right? When the program comes through media, TV, magazines, books. Then devotees celebrate Lord's appearance day with great enthusiasm, Rath Yatra, so many things. And they also adorn their bodies with tilaka. So devotees construct temples for the Lord and cannot worship of the Lord's deity form. See, all these devotees take immense pleasure in chanting and hearing glories of the Lord, who is their beloved hero. And they do it all their lives up to the point of death. So though there is a lot of similarity between the fans of the celebrities and fans of the Supreme Lord, devotees, externally, there's a gulf of difference between joining the fan club of a worldly celebrity and joining the Bhagavatam fan club. So worldly celebrity may be an expert in one particular field, and he may exhibit a particular opulence or talent, which is limited and bound by time. Whereas the Almighty Lord is complete and unlimited in everything. So the Bhagavad Puran explains in this 14th verse. So Suta Goswami desired to continue the topics of Lord Krishna in front of the sages of Naimisharanya. And the sages also expressed their readiness to hear from him continuously. So this is the point. Nityam Bhagavata Seva, we say, right? We should have the readiness to hear continuously. Now, since the Lord is transcendence and his attributes are transcendental, such discourses increase the receptive mood of the purified. By becoming a fan of a worldly celebrity, one may get material rewards and reciprocation. While Supreme Lord awards the devotee the greatest blessing, which is release from the repeated cycle of birth and death. So the devotee who is a member of the Bhagavatam fan club will enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss in due course of time. And hence any material happiness will become insignificant for him. In addition to getting the highest bliss, one can assimilate the essence of the entire Vedanta by hearing Bhagavata Puran, that is Bhagavatam, and performing devotional service. It's not possible for any other fan. And this is explained in the 15th verse.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please mute everybody.
Yes, Mother, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you, Mother. So here in the 15, O Suta Goswami, you are a learned and pure devotee of the Lord because personality of God is your chief object of service. Therefore, please describe to us the pastimes of the Lord, which are above all material conception, for you are anxious to receive such messages. So we should be anxious to receive such messages, right? So because of these reasons, in Bhagavata 12th canto, 13th chapter, 15th verse, it says, Sarva Vedanta Saramihi Sri Bhagavatam Ishyate Tad Rasamrta Triptasya Nani Atra Syad Rati Kochit. Srimad Bhagavatam is declared to be the essence of all Vedanta philosophy. One who has felt satisfaction from its nectarian mellow will never be attracted to any other literature. Because of the reason, great and powerful personalities like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Shukadeva Goswami, Bhishma, Yamraj, They are eternal members of the Bhagavatam fan club. And they encourage all the living entities to join this ultimate fan club so that we can relish the highest spiritual bliss and enter into the kingdom of God at the end of our lives. See, in the 15th verse, which we said just now, which we just saw, two words are very important. One is the qualification of speaker. The other one is qualification of listener. Shushuru Satam. Right? So let us see what is the qualification of speaker. Bhagavata Pradhana. See, personality of Godhead is the chief object of service. So the first qualification, one, the speaker should always feel that preaching is the service to the Supreme Lord and Guru, and is done to please them to the best of his ability. So once he tries to please the Lord and Guru, automatically all the devotees who are listening would be pleased, because Paramatma sitting in the heart of everyone would acknowledge and direct the devotees to accept the transcendental knowledge with full attention. Second is, the subject matter has to be read thoroughly and deliberated by the speaker nicely before disseminating the transcendental knowledge, and should ensure that it is within the jurisdiction of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. The third, the speaker should never think that the devotees listening to the class are less than himself in devotional service and thereby start dictating the terms to them. The fourth point, the speaker should understand and then disseminate the knowledge in a simple manner for all devotees to understand and accept. So the speaker should always consider himself that he was born in ignorance and Guru has lighted the lamp. So this is the most important point to be considered. See, unless Guru's mercy is available, no speaker would be able to speak on transcendence, correct? So that is the qualification of speakers, or speaker. Now, qualification of listener, those who are receptive, right? Number one, the listener should be very anxious to hear the message of God. First is he should be anxious, eager. Two, the listener, even if he's a senior preacher, should not consider the speaker as less qualified to speak, because the message disseminated is transcendental irrespective of the speaker. You see, Suta Goswami was born in a low family of Brahmanas, and the sages of Naimisharanya were more elevated than him. The third, the listener should be very attentive and submissive in order to have the effect of transcendental knowledge in him. He should be submissive and attentive while hearing, listening. So unless we possess both the qualification as a listener and as a speaker, the transcendental knowledge received or distributed will not have any effect on our spiritual progress, and will be like the boat anchored on the shore. So Prabhupada emphatically states that unless these qualities exist among the speaker and listener, there would not be any congenial situation to continue discourses on transcendence. So quite often there exists a misconception in the world that persons who are Brahmanas by birth alone are fit for making progress in spiritual path. Now the Lord treats everyone equally and does not discriminate anyone on the basis of their birth. Even a person born in family of mixed caste, lower caste, or dog eaters family can obtain the mercy of the Lord if he obtains proper guidance from a bona fide spiritual master. That's why in the 18th verse, Suta Goswami is telling, right? Telling about himself. Oh, Suta Goswami. See, Suta Goswami said, "Oh God, although we are born in a mixed caste, we are still promoted in birthright simply by serving and following the great who are advanced in knowledge. Even by conversing with such great souls, one can without delay cleanse oneself of all disqualifications resulting from lower births." What a beautiful statement. See, Suta Goswami, in spite of his lower birth, had wonderful association of his spiritual master, Shukadeva Goswami. And he became so qualified that sages at Naimisharanya were so eager to hear the nectar of Lord's pastime from him. Now, Prabhupada explains the purport, right? This verse definitely proves that Shukadeva Goswami did not refuse to teach Suta Goswami about the transcendental science, nor did the sages of Naimisharanya refuse to hear lessons from him because of his inferior birth. This means that thousands of years ago, there was no bar to learning or preaching the transcendental science because of inferior birth. The only qualification required for disciple is complete surrender to Guru and Krishna. By this nature, they will be bestowed with all transcendental knowledge and will also become powerful preachers and thus become sincere followers of Lord Chaitanya's mission. See, in the story of cobbler and the learned Brahmana also, we find that Lord assured that the cobbler who was always chanting Lord's names lovingly, when even while he was working, he would reach his abode much faster than the Brahmana who had mastered Vedas, but still had less faith in Lord's potency. So Prabhupada mentions a grain of devotion is more valuable than tons of faithlessness. A grain of devotion is more valuable than tons of faithlessness. See, in Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, 6th verse, Krishna says, Karmendriyani samyamya yaste manasasmaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mityachara sauchyate. One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on the sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. In the wonderful purport of 3.6, Prabhupada says, there are many pretenders who refuse to work in Krishna consciousness. There are many pretenders who refuse to work in Krishna consciousness, but make a show of meditation, while actually dwelling within the mind upon sense enjoyment. Now, such pretenders may also speak and try philosophy in order to bluff sophisticated followers. But according to this verse, these are the greatest cheaters. See, some people may be very good in deity worship, some in cooking, some in distributing books. We cannot imitate everyone, but we should try to serve the Lord with the best of our ability. See, when the sages in Naimisharanya request Suta Goswami to explain the glories of Supreme Lord, Suta Goswami very humbly says in 1:18-23 verse, Two rishis who are as powerfully pure as the sun. I shall try to describe to you the transcendental pastimes of Vishnu as far as my knowledge is concerned. As the birds fly in the sky as far as their capacity allows, so do the learned devotees describe the Lord as far as their realization allows. What a beautiful way of being humble, right? See, mosquito flies to a certain height. Sparrow flies more higher than the mosquito. Eagles fly more higher than the sparrows. So how much ever hard they try, a mosquito cannot exceed a sparrow, or a sparrow cannot exceed an eagle. But they just fly as much as they can. Similarly, each one of us is bestowed with certain capacity by the Supreme Lord. And it doesn't distinguish the service based on quantity or the end result. In Ramayana, we see that the squirrel's attempt to help Lord Ram build the bridge, squirrel, and the service done by Hanuman and other monkey soldiers of Sugriva in building the same were all considered to be the same by the Supreme Lord. So we should not artificially try to imitate others. The attitude to serve the Lord lovingly to the best of our ability is important than to imitate or pretend to be like others. The attitude to serve the Lord lovingly to the best of our ability is important. See, the concept of devotee care, right? In our society, it's there. Devotee care is becoming widely popular in Krishna consciousness movement. See, the idea of the system is to take personal care of the devotees. And that the culture of service, love, and care, it moves around all our activities, permeates all our activities. Now, this is supposed to be part of the system implicitly, each one of us are as practicing devotees, correct? See, devotee care, this care, love, and all these things need not be taught to us externally. But what had happened is, somehow we might have gone drastically wrong in our sophisticated life as devotees during the course of our devotional practice, that we have to be reminded about these basic qualities of devotees. See, our grandfathers and grandmothers were never taught these things in seminars. They imbibe these qualities naturally. So unless the feeling of love and care becomes part of our system internally, we may not be able to fully take advantage of this concept. So how do we get there? First, our life has to become simple. Our life has to become simple both in our minds as well as our deeds. Then everything else will automatically follow. Sorry. See, one of the vision statements of the devotee care system is, we need to give lifelong personal care to the devotees for them to make continuous progress in spiritual life. We need to give lifelong personal care to the devotees for them to make continuous progress in spiritual life. The first key word in the statement is lifelong personal care to the devotees. See, the care need to be given lifelong. Unfortunately for us, most of the time, the mutual interactions becomes transactional and based on utility. And when the utility is over, the devotee becomes low in priority. Secondly, the care is also not personal. See, when there is personal care, everyone, both the caregiver and the care receiver, become pleased and happy. But we usually have an impersonal approach to relationships. The first word we utter when our approach is impersonal is, I don't have time. When our life is dedicated for the service of others, when we see Krishna's hand in everything, we will not utter this statement. The second key word is to make continuous progress in spiritual life. The care should be given in such a way, in such a mood, that the devotee is able to progress in spiritual life. See, they should neither become zombie or become parasite to the care offered to them. There's always a feeling of warmth that we get when personal attention is given to us, right? We feel very cool, happy, very warm. But that should act as an impetus rather than impediment to our progress. See, whatever care is given to us, we should transfer that to others. So by caring for them and helping in their struggles and challenges in both devotional as well as maintenance activities, right? So this help has to be rendered with a long-term perspective. The system has to continue in the absence of the caregiver as well. Very important point to understand. See, Srila Prabhupada established this worldwide Krishna consciousness movement. And it is running successfully in spite of the physical absence of Prabhupada. And that is the real success of any system. To devote care we give, that person to whom we give, he should continue in further. So this similar challenge was given to Parikshit Maharaj. And he showed us the real way of devotee care system. This is revealed by Shaunak Rishi in his question about Parikshit Maharaj in 1.4.12 Bhagavatam as to why he gave up the body which was the shelter of everyone. See, Parikshit Maharaj was cursed, right? He will die in 7 days. And he left everything and he went to hear Bhagavatam and gave his body. But he was very useful for the citizens. He was wonderfully ruling the kingdom. So Shaunak Rishi is asking why he wanted to give up his body when he was the shelter for everyone. See, those who are devoted to the cause of personality of God live only for the welfare, development, happiness of others. They do not live for any selfish interest. So even though Emperor Parikshit was free from all attachment to worldly possessions, how could he give up his mortal body which was shelter for others? The real devotee care is possible when we live only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. This is a true hallmark of a devotee. The Parikshit Maharaj was already like that. Moreover, he was not attached to any worldly possessions. So naturally, he was not exploiting anyone. So in spite of this, there is a very important question raised by Shaunak Rishi. I said, why did Parikshit Maharaj give up his body, which was a shelter and protection for others? This is a very nice question because a king and a pure devotee like Parikshit Maharaj naturally gives fearlessness. So Parikshit Maharaj can start feeling that if I leave, what will happen to these subjects in the Kali age of Kali? So let me stay for some time more so that the subjects will not feel the effects of Kali. He might, but the ultimate teaching a caretaker can teach to this dependence is that we all have to go, and I too am no exception to that. We have to go. So there is no subtle attachment to staying in this world in the name of doing devotional service. Because of doing devotional service, I will not go away. Or completing some project or taking care of devotees. See, he was completely detached, right? But in that process, Parikshit Maharaj also gave the eternal one-stop solution to all the suffering living entities. Kirtana Deva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Brije. This is a real long-term love and care, not only for the devotees, but for all the living entities that Parikshit Maharaj gave. Even when I am not there, devotees have to be taken care of. So this is the systematic and organized effort that Maharaj Parikshit did. So the 7th verse of this chapter, Prabhupada writes the purport. At the end of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that even though all nefarious activities of the personality of Kali are present, There's a great advantage in the age of Kali. What is that advantage? One can attain salvation simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Maharaj Parishit made an organized effort to propagate the chanting of the Lord's holy names. Maharaj Parishit did. He was a king, he was so busy, but he was organizing effort to propagate the chanting of the holy names. And thus he saved the citizens from the clutches of Kali. So we can learn an important lesson from the examples of Parishit Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, and many of his sincere followers like a guru, that devotee care can truly become successful when we internalize the concept of love and care and not do it with any ulterior motive. Now let us see whether Kali Yuga is a boon or a curse. Whether Kali Yuga is a boon or a curse. Kali Yuga is also known as age of quarrel. That's why Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto, very clearly describes the various symptoms of Kali Yuga. In the Kali Yuga, the good qualities of people diminish. In Kali Yuga, the good qualities of people diminish and bad qualities increase. Nothing to explain, to be explained. So they'll increase in atheism. No care for cows or brahmanas. The rulers will behave like dacoits. And people in general will have Shudra mentality. It was projected long time back in the 12th canto, it's there in Bhagavatam. So if there are so many bad qualities in Kali Yuga, then we might wonder, why did a good king like Parishit Maharaj, first of all, allow Kali personified to stay in the planet Earth? Why did he not kill it? See, Parishit Maharaj, being an exalted devotee of the Lord, he could understand the plan of Krishna. He knew the facilities which Lord Krishna has mercifully provided in this age. He gave 5 places for Kali to stay. The 5 places where Kali resides are gold, places where there are meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling. At the same time, Parishit Maharaj trained his people not to fall a prey to sinful acts of Kali. So by following the 4 regulative principles and by not being greedy for gold, you can have gold a little bit, but not greedy, we will also be able to save ourselves from the clutches of Kali. And more importantly, in Srimad Bhagavatam verses, 12th canto, 3rd chapter, verse number 51 and 52. Very, very important verses. Kare doshanidhe rajan astyaveko mahan gunah kirtanadeva krishnasya mukta sangha param vrajet krite yadhyayato vishnum tretayam yajato makhaihi dvapare paricharyayam kalau tadhari ketanat. It says, translation goes like this. My dear king, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, there is still one good quality about this age. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become free from the material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. And the 52nd verse is, whatever result was obtained in Satyuga by meditating on Vishnu, in Treta Yuga by performing sacrifices, and in Dwapar Yuga by serving the Lord's lotus feet, can be obtained in Kali Yuga simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So Prabhupada says, one can attain salvation simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Thereby, Maharaj Parishit made an organized effort to propagate the chanting of the Lord's holy names, and thus he saved the citizens from the clutches of Kali. So it is for this advantage only that great sages sometimes wish all good for the age of Kali. In the Vedas also it is said that by discourse on Lord Krishna's activities, one can get rid of all the disadvantages of the age of Kali. So Krishna Katha, hearing Krishna Katha is very, very important. So when we take the shelter of Mahamantra and Srimad Bhagavatam, then Kali Yuga will no longer be a curse, but it will be a boon for all of us. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Tagore Primangari Pur. Mancha Kalpatarubic Kribas and Dubevicha, Patitanam Pavan Bivashti. Thank you very much, Guru Mataji, for giving this opportunity to glorify Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Dandavat
Krishna,
Thank you.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you
Hare
very much.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ramachandra Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Anurup. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have a